Owning a home is full of surprises. Some wonderful, some not so much. And when something breaks, it can feel like the whole day unravels. That's why HomeServe exists. For as little as $4.99 a month, you'll always have someone to call. A trusted professional ready to help, bringing peace of mind to 4.5 million homeowners nationwide. For plans starting at just $4.99 a month, go to homeserve.com. That's homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 to $11.99 a month your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs.
Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul, a safe and sacred place to be vulnerable, to be transparent, to be authentic. I am your host, Tisha Michelle. From the deep pain and loss of my best friend Gloria, I realized she gave me the greatest gift ever, remembering my purpose in life, which is to help connect you to your authentic self, guide you to remember your purpose, and remind you that your current circumstance doesn't define who you are. Join me as we heal, align, and glow together. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Seeing with Your Soul. It's me, Tisha Michelle, your host. So I do have a quick announcement. Of course, because of Corona, I wasn't able to have either one of my spiritual retreats for this year, but it's okay. We're going to trust the process and we're going to just trust in everything. So it has been pushed. The Arizona retreat has been pushed to next May. So, and with that being said, I actually have 2 more openings for the retreat. So if you had wanted to go this year and things just weren't looking up for you, guess what? You got some more time, so you can actually go next year. So if this is something that you want to inquire more about, reach out to me. You can just, you know what? The best way, honestly, is to send me an email, tisha@healaligneglow.com, or go on Instagram to @MindsetSlayer, and you can just send me a DM from there, and I will get you the information. So normally I start off our, episode with me expressing what it is that I'm grateful for, but I actually did that because today, guys, we have a guest on the show and I express my gratitude there. So I want to jump into getting you guys all warmed up and just ready for this conversation. So unless you are driving, I want you guys to go ahead and take some nice deep breaths. So we're going to go ahead and take a nice deep breath by breathing in through our nose and then letting it out through our mouth. And if you notice that you tensed up, kind of notice where that tension is at in your body. So before you take your next deep breath, go ahead and massage yourself in that area. You can roll your neck, roll your shoulders, like your arms. Just really kind of pay attention to where that tension was. Because as we're taking these nice deep breaths, in and breathing out, we want to relax. We want to relax. And if you notice that you're getting tense, just notice that there's just some energies that you're holding on into your body, and we want to release that. So, go ahead now and take another nice deep breath in and then let it out. And one more. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. So I want to give you guys a quick tip because, I'm always talking about, taking deep breaths and centering ourselves, right? So another way to typically the way we take our deep breaths, if we even do it, we're going to take a nice deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth, right? And that's typically how we'll do that. If you want to change it up and you just really feel like I got to get myself centered, don't be afraid to really, really let it out. You can be taking a deep breath in. And let it out like that. Don't be afraid to put some oomph into it. You may even scream when you take that. You're just moving and just that powerful energy and you're I want to get it out of here, right? So don't be afraid to do that, right? So, okay, right? So where do I even start with this? I have a friend. His name is Truth. And right now he is currently incarcerated. And I've known him for a really, really long time. So I've actually known him from high school. So I've seen, a lot of different phases of his life. And I recently got back reconnected with him, which makes all the sense in the world, because I don't know if I've even talked about this on a podcast or not before, but I want to work in the jail systems, right? I want to go in and like create a program and be able to work with people in there on their mindset, their perspective, teaching them to go within and really to connect to who they are, teaching them that that current circumstance that they're in doesn't define who they are and who are you outside of being confined, right? And, one of my books that I'm working on, I want that book to be in every jail, because I won't be able to, work with everyone one-on-one, but I still want them to be able to have a piece of me and a piece of my knowledge that will be able to help them, in their life. And we always talk about how the system, was designed to keep us, just keep us trapped, and how we're being fed into the jails, right? So, which all of that 100% agree with and see it. However, you go a little further. Well, what is putting you in there? So you can say like, oh, you put people in a situation where they have to figure out how they're going to survive, where they're going to get money from. So then they go out and take and they go out and steal, and then they end up in there. So what I want to do is I want to help people so they don't go back in there. I want to help them get to the root cause of what really put them in there. So yes, we have a system that was designed to do this, but we still have to be a willing participant, right? So getting people clear to understanding that, if you're in poverty, or if you're feeling like, you got to feed your kids, so I'm going to go take it from someone because I got to be able to feed my kids. I got to take care of my family. So I'm going to go out there and take it from someone else. It's like, well, why? Why do you feel like that? Like, what was the environment that you were in? Why do you feel like that's your only option? And I'm just giving that as an example because it goes a lot deeper than that. But this is where I want to work with people to really understanding that there was another option. There was another choice, and how you can look back into your childhood and understand who you are right now and how you ended up here. And how, one of the freeing factors is by taking responsibility for the role that you played in creating your life the way that it is. So, I want to go a little more to, it goes a lot deeper into that too, also of, people don't having someone out here on the outside to talk to, not having any money to just to get your basic needs that's in there, like your soap and stuff to wash, because you got to pay for all that stuff, right? You got to pay for that in there. And you may get, privileged to get a job in there, but you're making 23 cents, for the day. Yes, I didn't make a mistake, depending on what it is that you're doing. So I know, like my friend said, you can be done working the whole month and you have $12. And I know some people could say, well, don't do nothing to get yourself in trouble, and you wouldn't have to worry about that. And that comes from a judgmental standpoint, right? Where we really need to step back and we need to look within and look at ourselves. Start judging yourself. Start looking at the mistakes, if you call them mistakes, I call them experiences. If you look at your life and you see the choices and the things that you've made, it might not have landed you in jail, but it caused some havoc out here. It could be even to the point where you had your lights turned off. You might have even gotten evicted, right? And then someone could say, well, you should have paid your bills and you wouldn't have to worry about sleeping in your car, right? We don't want to look at it from that point. We want to look at the choices that you made that landed you there. And you want to go back and look at that so you can learn the lesson and not be able to repeat whatever it is that, landed you in that situation. So that's a part of, something that's really on my heart, is where I want to develop this program, that's all over. And it won't just be me, but having other people that, also go into there. And I don't know what it all looks like. So it's still unraveling. So it made all the sense in the world why I ended up reaching back out to Truth and having, these conversations and stuff with him. So I wanted to bring him on here just to give like a little just insight into really being forced to go within and looking at yourself and what does that look like from, his perspective. Also, he is now working on, and I'll be helping him along with this, on launching his podcast, and it's called Truth Beyond These Walls. And he's going to dive into, his perspective of what goes on, in the jail system. And he doesn't want to come from the standpoint of like where everybody talks about like how shitty it is and what it looks like and how, how the percentage of Black people or people of color in here or how people, it's not coming from that standpoint. There's a lot of people that talk about that, and it's very, very, very important topics. But he wanted to talk about things that sometimes people overlook and they don't really think about. One of his topics he's going to talk about, not in this episode, but when he does his, he's going to talk about parenting from prison. He's going to talk about food, the food that's in the system and what does that do for your body in there. He also wants to share his story of the pandemic in prison. And he shared that with me. And I was like, what the fuck? But that's his story to tell. He wants to talk about, the emotional stress, the prison relationships, really just kind of dive into a lot of things that, you could relate to. Even if you've never been to prison, you could relate to them. Also to open people up to if they have a family member that's in jail, to kind of see a different perspective. And he talked about something, today when we recorded earlier that really, I guess like stuck out or whatever. But anyway, what he talked about, because I had shared something about how I was kind of judgy about people in jail and my family members and stuff. But he said something that I know you guys can relate to, because he talks about how when you're in jail and you get a visit, whether it's on the phone or in person, and you go and you're talking to your family, your loved ones, you're like, oh, I'm good. Everything is good. Like, how are you? And da-da-da. And really, they're, a lot of times they're putting on a front because they don't want you to feel a certain way about them. They don't want you to worry about them. So they want to pretend and act like everything is good and they're cooling in there. But inside, they're dying. They're wearing, he says, wearing a mask, right? But you know what? That's something that we all do out here. We feel like we don't have an outlet, anybody to talk to. There's nobody to talk to really tell them how we feel. And I know I've been there. I'm good. But inside, I'm fucking dying. My son's dad said that to me. He said, a lot of people were around you all the time and you were in the worst stage of your life and they didn't even know. And I was like, I know. He knew because I was close with him and I could share those things, right? So that's also a part of it where it's like giving people that outlet. Right. So he wants to use his voice and his experience and his stories to, help other people. Right. So I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. I wanted it to go longer, but we got to keep hang up and call back and stuff. And I was like, you know what? It's all good because he's going to drop his podcast and, we're going to be able to really dive deep and really, provide you guys with this just powerful content that can, help all of us along in our journey. So, all right. So I hope you guys enjoy the conversation that I had with Truth.
Hey.
Hey.
Are you able to hear me fine, though?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you got a little louder, so that's good. That's good. Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul.
Thank you.
So, on this show, I always like to start off by just expressing gratitude. I think it's super important for us to, honestly, I would tell everybody to, start their day off with gratitude and before they go to bed, express their gratitude. So on here, like I said, I always like to start off with some gratitude. So I want to express my gratitude first, and then it'll be your turn. So in this present moment, one thing that really stands out as I'm just scanning through the last 24 hours is I would honestly say part of the conversation that me and you had with each other yesterday. And I was actually sharing it with one of my friends when we went to dinner. It was where you said two things one, you called me out about not really making some money with this network and how important it is about the network that I have. So I needed that conversation and that reminder from you, because I'm a firm believer that spirit, God, universe, whatever people are relating to, will use other people to relay messages to you. And in that moment, I needed that. And then the other thing you said was when you kept talking about, you was like, there's no reason for anybody to be broke. You just kept saying that there's so many different ways to make money, and that there's so many opportunities out there that nobody should be broke. So I needed to hear that as well too, because sometimes I forget about just like the skill sets that I have and the different things, because it is so natural to me that I believe that it's just natural to everyone, but in actuality it's not, and that is something that you can make money off of, and that it's okay to make money off of it. So in this present moment, those are some of the things that I'm grateful for. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So your turn. So in this present moment, what would you say that you're grateful for?
In this moment, I'm grateful for, well, first and foremost, probably grateful just to wake up and see another day, I'm grateful for good health, and when I say that, I mean mentally and physically. I'm always grateful for new opportunities presenting themselves, so I'm definitely grateful to have crossed paths with you once again and have these new opportunities bubbling here that we'll put in place here soon. I would say for right now, that's pretty much what I'm grateful about.
That's good. Yeah. Even just touching on you saying like, us, crossing paths again and just like new opportunities. Like that's so important, because a lot of times you can just like, when I say you, meaning like all of us, can just allow like our current circumstance to really like define who we are. And that's really not true. It's just an experience that we're in. And if we open ourselves up to receive, you'll start to see the other opportunities that have really presented themselves to us. And you're like, oh, wait, what? But the reason why they're presenting themselves is because we're ready. I'm a firm believer of that. It's like we're ready for that. So whatever type of, shift you've made in like your mindset, or some, you've been reading a book, or you just decided like enough is enough, like these opportunities will just like present themselves because it's meant to like happen. So I definitely want to just go ahead and just jump into the show. And whether it's like I'm talking to my listeners where, they're listening to this podcast, or I'm talking to clients, or maybe I'm posting a video or whatever, just speaking to a stranger or whatever, I'm always suggesting for people to get quiet, be still, and go within, because there's so much clarity and so much reflection and so much magic that happens from, just going within and being still, being quiet, meditating, journaling, but just really doing that self-reflecting. So with someone like yourself, in your current circumstance, you are incarcerated, and I guess it's safe to say you had a lot of time being still. So I just want you to share with the listeners like what that experience has been like for you.
So, it took a while to really get used to being still, actually, because prior to incarceration, I was never still. So this was a thing where I was more so forced to be still. And that in itself is like an eye-opener, because it took some getting used to, rather. And through the course of it, being forced to be still, you kind of, I guess, learn new things about yourself. You kind of, I mean, I've learned things about myself. I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-assessment, a lot of, like you just said, digging deep, I guess, within, and a whole lot of thinking. I mean, the time that I've had to do that is it probably could have and should have been done a long time ago, but being forced to sit still, it's like you get a lot of time to think, you know? I mean, sitting in here, surrounded by nothing but these walls, you know, and Excel sometimes, especially at nighttime, you know, you have nothing but your thoughts. So there's a lot of self-reflection, you know? You think about your past, you think about your future, you think about your present, regret, dreams, wants, goals, all that type of stuff, you know?
Yeah. So you mentioned that, you know, having that like alone time and being forced, you thought about like your past. So it's a two-part question. So the first part, when you were out on the, you know, on the streets and you said that you were never still, you were always busy. Did you ever really find yourself even thinking about your past, or was it more of just focusing on like the future?
Probably definitely focusing on the future. Because I always have goals and things that I'm trying to attain and get to. So the only reflection on past would probably be on past mistakes that I may have made in a business venture or something where I know not to do that again. But most of my thinking was probably geared more towards what I'm trying to get to, what I'm trying to attain, what I'm trying to accomplish, you know. So there was really no downtime as far as just sitting still and really just thinking, other than, like I said, just thinking forward. Nothing really about the past. Being in here, I'm kind of forced to think about the past because the future's tomorrow or the next day or the next day, but the real future that I'm thinking about in here is freedom, which is a little further away. So, past really, you get to look back on a lot of mistakes and stuff that you made or regrets or whatever. So I've been able to do that. It's definitely something I've never done before.
So how was that? So here you are now being forced. First of all, none of us likes to be forced to do shit, right? Because first of all, you have a problem with being forced. So now, you know, you don't have anything to do but be alone with your thoughts, which can be very scary. You know, I know people, and I'll speak just for myself. At one point, I was the person who could, if I'm taking a drive somewhere, I have to talk to someone on the phone. And if I don't have anybody to talk to, I have to listen to the radio. And it was like I had to be like consuming something. And the reason being is because I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts. That was a scary shit. I didn't want to start to reflect. I didn't want to start to think because in my mind, I felt like if I started to think about it, then that's what made it real. And then I had to face some stuff and I didn't want to do it. So I would, you know, avoid. And then I started to notice like there was always commercials on every station I would go on. Then I have nobody to talk to on the phone. I'm like, what the hell is going on? But what it was there was still that way of me being forced to just think, take the ride and just sit there in the silence, you know, especially if no one was with me. And now I live for that shit. I don't want to talk to nobody on the phone. I don't want to listen to anything. But, you know, there's sometimes I'll listen to like a podcast or maybe an album if I'm in a Mary J. Blige like mood or something. But now it's like I love it because I see so much clarity that can come from it, even if it feels painful. So, like I said, people like to run from it. But now in your situation, like you can't run from your thoughts. Like you're forced. So when you say you started reflecting on like the past, like if you don't mind, you know, what are some things that, you know, came up for you that you've learned about yourself through visiting the past?
Well, like, I mean, it's just so much. I don't know what I should pinpoint on. You know, a lot of things that we've done in our past kind of puts us in the current situation that we're in now, whether we want to believe that to be true or not. A lot of things that, you know, the past kind of dictates your present. And what you do in your present kind of dictates where you're going to be at in your future. You know, just looking around me, you know, observing the environment that I'm in, reflecting on my past kind of entails thinking about Just like current, mistakes that I've made in the past, and not just mistakes legally, but mistakes in relationships, mistakes with other people, various situations that I probably could have avoided that weren't of any type of benefit to me. When you get enough time to really think back, like I said, I didn't do much of that when I was out there, but being forced to, it's almost like you meet a whole other person. That person sitting in the mirror is like a whole new person, because you never really got to, it's like almost like an introduction. It's like, hey, how you doing? And that person's looking back at you, but you can really delve into your mind and your thoughts and really, get introduced to who you really are. And I think that's scary for a lot of people to do, because a lot of people are scared to look at that person in the mirror and who they really are. People don't want to be who they really are. For me, it was just interesting because I've never been scared to be who I am, and who, I've never been like, I've never been afraid to be the person that I am. I've never really been one to
follow the crowd.
Yeah, I've always kind of stood away from the pack. So digging deep within myself and learning again who I really am, it was just interesting, man. It just gave me a whole new outlook on life, and as far as where I want to be and where I'm going and what I need to do to get there,
Yeah. How did you feel about yourself? Because, you are meeting. It is an introduction. Like, did you feel like, oh, wow, like, did you ever be like, I hated that older version of me, or I love this new me, or I don't want to be this new me. Like, I want to go back. Like, did you ever battle with that, basically, like that identity?
I don't think I ever, hated the person that I was. I do think about some of the things that I've done, some of the things that I have said, some of the situations that I've put myself in, and I've hated the results of that. But I've never really, I can't say that I hated anything about what because I've always been real with myself. I've never really done things that I didn't want to do or didn't have to do. Well, yeah, I have done things I didn't have to do, but but yeah, just reflecting on it, I definitely can appreciate the person that I've become, because had I not been forced to sit still the way I have, more than likely would still be going 100 miles a minute, no turning back. And just having time to, really just think about things and whatnot, plan things out properly, and think about every little, shit. It's just different. It's hard to formulate in words right now, but it's very different. I have a whole different mindset.
Yeah. A lot of people, and I'm glad you said that about people being afraid to be themselves, to meet themselves. They don't even know who they are because they worry or
somebody else.
Yeah, that absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth. But I can personally attest to the individual, because I've known you for so many years, and you do what is the saying? You march to your own beat, right? So you never were a follower, and you didn't have a problem being yourself and standing out. And I know a lot of people, just from clients or just meeting people or whatever, they're afraid to be themselves and to stand out because they think that that's weird, or they're being different, or people are going to talk about them, or they're just going to be such this outcast. But I can attest to you standing out and being different. That energy is so strong and dominant that people want to be like you. People want to, quote unquote, follow you. And people don't understand when you just be yourself, how amazing and dope that is. And so many people will pick up on that aura because that's something that they envy. Not to be like, oh, I'm so jealous, but it's like, I would love to be, oh my God, you're just being yourself and you don't care what other people think. Oh my God, I wish I could be like that, right? So this is where like your energy is so big and it just stands out. And this is just by you just being yourself. And I think it's so important for people to just really, you know, whether they're forced to go within or they make that conscious choice to go within and really start to meet yourself. And you'll just see like how amazing not only that you feel, but how other people will gravitate to that, and it will help other people to then be themselves.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I see it. And it becomes that ripple effect. There was something that you said, and it's coming up, so it's probably going to be cutting us off soon, but it was something that you said to me a long time ago in a conversation, and it was basically talking about like why you were in there or whatever, and you said, and don't quote me, you said something to the fact of like a lot of people go to jail and they have a hard time sleeping at night, and you don't have a hard time sleeping at night. You remember saying that to me?
Yeah.
And it's like you don't have a hard time sleeping at night because basically you made peace with whatever it was that you did. And I thought that that was so powerful. For some people could look at it and be like, he's fucking heartless, he doesn't care. But it's when we make peace with our past and the things that we've done and we integrate it into who we are, that's the freedom. That's freedom.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I think, you know, back when I said that, which I
You have 1 minute remaining.
I still see that to this day. You want me to call back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can call back. You can talk until it hangs up in there. Actually, just hold it. Just call. Yeah, just call back.
All right.
Hold on, guys. He's going to call back. Okay, we're back.
Okay. What was I saying? Oh, so yeah, when I made that statement to you a long time ago, it was coming from a place where, you know, what I've experienced in here from a lot of gentlemen that I'm around, it stems from, like we were just talking about, people not even really wanting to be themselves, right? Because a lot of people are in here for things that they have done, which typically are things that they probably really would not have done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people are in here for trying to please others, trying to be a part of something that may have been a little bigger than them, trying to prove something to somebody, things of that nature, all for the wrong reasons. Not saying there is a right reason to be doing crimes or anything like that, but when you're doing things all for the wrong reasons and then you have to pay the consequences for it, that's a hard pill to swallow. You know, I'm a firm believer in you do the crime, you really got to do the time that comes with it. You know, you're doing these crimes or whatever you're out there doing, you should already know what the consequences can and very well be when you get caught. So when you do get caught, there's nothing to cry about at that point. You know, you're going to have to go on and tough it out, suck it up, and do the time. So being around a lot of guys who it's very well obvious that they didn't mean to do what they did to wind up in here, you know. So they have a hard time with it. They really have a hard time with themselves at that point. They can't sleep at night. They're whining, they're crying about just a bunch of other things, and then a whole lot of other things come with that. But it makes for a hard time in here, especially if you can't make peace with yourself and what you have you've done to get yourself here. So me, when I first came here, I was probably still a little angry, not because of angry at myself for getting caught or anything like that, but probably more angry about the circumstances surrounding me actually getting here. But for the actual reason that landed me here was something that I mean, I hate to say it, but at that time, I had every intention on doing. It wasn't by accident or nothing like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So I was, I felt as though it was a big difference. You know, like I said, it didn't cause me to lose sleep at night. It didn't cause me to feel any type of, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it was just different. It was very different. And, you know, since that time, I've definitely made peace with myself because, I mean, it was definitely a mistake at the end of the day, meaning I probably could have handled things differently, probably should have handled things differently. But at that time, that's just, you know, what I chose to do. So there's no crying about it now. It's more so just gotta go on and finish up this sentence that I have here and make the best of it. And while I'm here, plan for the future. But in the meantime, I mean, it's nobody's fault but my own, you know? And I know that. There's no blame game or nothing like that. You just suck it up. That makes
And I think
sense.
it makes a lot of sense because whether, you know, listeners, you know, any of my listeners have been to jail or not, it doesn't matter if you're incarcerated or if you're out here in the streets, you can still be trapped in fear. Your mind can still be like in a place of jail. All right. And a lot of times it's also because we don't accept that responsibility for that role that we played. Right. So as long as we continue to blame other people or other things and stuff, like we'll always stay trapped into that. And this is where we are meant to make peace at our experiences that we've had. And I don't personally call them like mistakes. I just, you know, switched my language and just call them experiences and, you know, go forward from there. Like, I mean, do I want to have that experience again? I'd be like, hell no. You know, I don't want to repeat that shit no more. Nope. I learned my lesson type thing. But it's making peace with it so you integrate the experiences and the things that the choices that you made that you can look back and just be like, damn, I should have never did that and I shouldn't have did this and I shouldn't have did that. But you're also keeping yourself, you know, trapped, right? And stuck in all that power lies in there versus looking at what you did, integrating it, making peace with it and knowing that, you know what, I will never have that experience again. Right. And that's what I said the ultimate freedom is when you recognize you have that level of awareness to say, I did that. You know, you're owning that. And then it's like, I won't do that again. Because this lesson, you know, that I've learned was very painful, very long, and it's caused a lot of things, but you can still make peace with it. I remember my whole mindset and everything has tremendously like shifted to getting back to who I really am at the core was after, you know, Gloria's passing. You know, prior to that, because I have an uncle that's institutionalized, like he's been in jail more than he's been out here in the streets. I have plenty of cousins, and I know a lot of people that's been in jail. And I used to always, like, if we would go and visit, or I would talk to them on the phone, especially going to visit, and I would see them all smiling and happy, and, you know, knowing everybody talking about, I used to be like, what the fuck is wrong with them? Why are you smiling? Why are you happy? Like, you want to be there? And I used to come from a place of judgment. I kid you not.
You gotta smile to keep from crying. You ever heard somebody say that?
100%. But I looked at it from a different way. But once my perspective and mindset and everything opened and really shifted, it's like, you should not be miserable in there. Your current circumstance doesn't define who you are. Doesn't mean that you still can't show your leadership skills. Doesn't mean that you can't be creative in there. You know, doesn't mean that you know, can't make the best of it. Or like you said, smile to keep yourself from like, you know, crying because maybe you don't want to cry or you can't or whatever like the case is. But I used to look at it like, that is crazy. Like you want to be there. And I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense when I think about it now of how I was thinking. But that's just like the situations and stuff that we're in out here. You know, like as well, like why keep yourself trapped into this? why keep yourself trapped into that? It doesn't mean you don't care about what you did. It doesn't mean it's like, oh, well, like, or whatever. It just means like I've made peace with my past and my experiences so that way I can enjoy the present moment, which then is going to shape me for the future to come. And whether you're in there or you're out there, it's the same thing.
Yeah, this is a dark place. The environment is not a happy environment, but there are things that you can smile about. There are ways, especially when you have come to realize, like, this is actually going to be a part of your life for quite some time. There are things that happen in here that can make you smile, can make you laugh. Every once in a while, you have a good day, you know what I mean? Small things. It's crazy because in here, like, the smallest little thing sometimes can change your day. Things that you may not even think about. Even out there, small things can make your day. Seeing somebody smile, sometimes can make your day. But in here, it can be, I don't know, it's a lot of different things. But nonetheless, the point I'm making is the environment is definitely a dull place. It's hard to really be happy, smile, have enjoyment and stuff in here. But when you do find those small things that make you happy, or a small event or something takes place, or you speak to a loved one, or you get a letter in the mail or an email, or you see a picture, or every once in a while we even have a good meal. You know what I mean? Like something so minute. And when I say a good meal, I mean like a piece of chicken or something like that, because we rarely see that. So, you get a piece of chicken on your tray sometimes. That's a good day. You know what I mean? I know some days in the summertime when we go out to rec or whatever, it's blazing hot outside, but some guys will get together and they'll play softball games. And, it's comical. It's like the softball games that you see on that movie Life with Eddie and Martin. Yeah. Dudes are sitting in the stands and they laughing and joking and cracking jokes, and dudes just, that's a good day. You know what I mean? It can wind up being a happy moment. And it kind of takes you so far away from your present surroundings that it's crazy. It's crazy. And so what you were talking about, like when you would go see your uncle and your cousins or whatever in the visiting room, like they're not down in that visiting room all the time. So that time that they get to come down in the visiting room and see their loved ones and people that love them, that's a good time. Because right after you leave that visiting room, it's right back to what? Where we're in here not smiling and it's not so happy. You know what I mean? So you take that small little minute time and you make the best of it. Because, that's all you can really do.
Yeah. I love how you said, like, just giving the example of, like, the softball and, like, laughing and, like, probably talking about people, you know what I mean? Just like, oh, look at them, maybe they fell when they was running or how they run or something, and everybody's just cracking up and not feeling good. Yeah. It just takes it back.
But when it does, it's like exhilarating, you know what I mean?
Yeah, which it takes it back to like one of the greatest medicines is laughter. Like I would prescribe that to people all the time. I said, that's another way to shift how it is. Think of something funny. Of course, you guys is different, out here, I would say, go put on a comedy, go put on something. For me, it's Kevin Hart, or just think of something, it could be thinking back to that softball game when that person was running and just knew they was doing something and they fell. And somebody fell. Hopefully they hurt themselves, but that shit was funny, right? And just by laughing and remembering that changes like your energy. It changes, that vibration, that frequency that you're on because you are laughing. And it just shifts and it just changes stuff. So, now when I think back about it, I was like, oh my God, but I didn't know any better, right? I didn't know any better. I'm just thinking one way and not looking at it from that standpoint and stuff. But, once things started shifting with me and I opened myself up more, I'm like, I appreciate that they were laughing and that they were smiling and they weren't down and out and saying my life is over and a woe is me and or whatever the case is. But to be in any situation that you're in, whether you're incarcerated or you're out here going through the darkest moments, but to be able to find some type of beauty that can make you smile and laugh, I think that's amazing.
Another thing about that is because this is where we live, right? This is our environment. This is our house, so to speak. And out there, if you haven't been in this situation before, your idea of what goes on in here is probably what you get from TV and movies and things of that nature. And, just your overall thoughts of what it is like in here. Like you said, you're thinking to yourself, like, what the hell are you smiling for? What are you so happy about? It's another thing also, I'm going to speak on my kids, for example. Like, I could be feeling terribly and having a very bad day and not want to smile, but let's just say this is a visiting day where they were coming to visit me. I'm not going to give off that energy to them to make them know that this shit in here is killing me. Like, I'm just so down and out that I can't even smile that y'all are here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more of a protection of y'all, in a way, to not really give off those vibes that we're so down and out down here that, we're on the brink of death and destruction and whatnot. You know what I mean? So even if I can disguise those feelings of despair for a few minutes to make you know that, yo, I'm all right. You know what I mean? I'm cool. I'm glad that y'all are here. I'm happy. I'm good. And then once you leave, I can go back to being Mr. Ugly Man again, not smiling and mad as hell. Is a lot of times that's just the way things are conducted for real. Because we don't want you leaving the visiting room. Like, I don't want my kids leaving the visiting room or any even over phone conversations or anything like that. There's no times in the world that I want my children to think that their father is not okay. Because I know what that would do to them. So even when I'm not okay, I'm not going to give off that impression to them. I'm going to let them know everything is all right. I'm good. You know what I mean? So that could also be another reason that a person will mask that despair with smiles and happiness and joy, even though it could be very genuine, and most likely it is. But if it's not, it's usually just a mask that we wear.
Which is what most people do, whether they're incarcerated or out here. We walk around with a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's tough, because that's also even more and we'll just speak on your situation because I'm chatting with you today. And by being in there, that's just even more pressure of holding that in, still trying to protect someone else so they don't feel a certain way. While inside, you could be dying and then not having that real outlet. And that's tough, it's tough out here to do that. I know my famous words is, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. So somebody like, I was like, I'm good. Like, I'm good. So everybody think everything was perfect for me. But inside I was dying.
Right.
Inside I was dying.
That's a reality in here. That's a real, true reality that a lot of people go through, and they don't have outlets. A lot of people don't have outlets. And it's just, their outlet becomes all the things that you see on movies and whatnot,
Yeah.
The enjoyment could wind up bringing pain to someone else.
Someone else, yeah.
Shape or form,
Like they say, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a part of, what I've discussed with you of wanting to, create this program and being able to go into the jail systems and to be able to be that outlet, create something that can be that safe and sacred space, just like I do with people out here. And I don't think it should be any different because a person is incarcerated. And I think we even touched on this before, where it's like people, you did this crime and you're in jail. Like that's just what it is. So you got to just deal with it, or I don't want to have any type of compassion for a person. And I feel like, sometimes people on the outside need to also step back and look at their life and like you call them mistakes, right? And I say experiences, the different, mistakes/experiences that we've made. It might not have landed us in jail, but we could have done some horrible shit, right? And, and I just think that, I don't know, I guess I just feel like everybody deserve some form of like compassion. And I know we're getting ready to come up to our time, so I definitely want to plug in that you're going to be launching your podcast, and you can let them know the name of it. Let them know the name of it.
Truth Beyond These Walls.
So in your podcast, you're definitely going to dive in, really deep to a lot of these things we were talking about and going even further, which I think is going to be so dope and so eye-opening for people, because whether you are incarcerated or not, or you have a loved one or not, these are real life
You have 1 minute remaining.
Real life things that's going to be able to help so many people. But really quick, hopefully it doesn't hang up. But I love when you said that the judge already gave you your time and that is your punishment. And it's basically no one else's job to make your life harder than what it is.
Right.
So I can't wait for that episode with you to go in further.
I got a lot of ideas. Everything we're going to talk about on there is not going to be the typical, everyday, normal conversation of things that you would normally hear people talking about in the incarcerated jail prison system. We're going to kind of think outside of the box, talk about things outside of the box, but definitely related to the outside world and whatever people are going through out there. I just hope that people can relate. I kind of feel like you should,
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to #certified. If anything resonated with you, I would love to continue the conversation. You can follow me on Instagram @itistisha. And if you want to be a part of the #certified tribe, you can join my Facebook group by going to the search tab and putting in #certified. My website is conversationswithtisha.com. As always, have a great one on purpose. Love you.